Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Arizona Coyotes franchise mode here in NHL 22. So in last episode we had free agency and we also started up the season, and as you can see so far we are 10, 11, and 2, so we're actually simulating a lot better than I thought. Now what's kind of interesting though is our top line has been doing terribly, but it seems like our depth scoring has been there, which is good to see, especially considering some of our younger guys are producing at a pretty good rate. So anyways, before we start simulating more up until the trade deadline, I do have a few comments to go over. So the first two comments are from Senator Sal. He says, if you're under the minimum cap, pick up a bad contract with 1 year left and get like a third with it for a fourth or fifth rounder. So we might end up doing that at some point because obviously we are right like at the cap floor or right below the cap floor, I believe. So there is players that are making more than they actually were offered. So as you can see, we're just literally above it at 70.685, which I believe the minimum must be like $70 million or somewhere around there. So at some point, maybe we will bring in somebody that has a good cap hit, so that way we don't have to run into the problems. Or maybe next off season we'll just give somebody like a bigger contract, so that way we don't run into these type of issues down the road. Also, Senator Sal says also trade Caleb Jones with his brother, so I think he means to trade Caleb Jones to Chicago. Caleb Jones is one of these players we could definitely trade away at the deadline, but the only thing is right now he isn't really actually funneling any interest. I took a look to see if there's any teams that would like him, which is kind of surprising that nobody would want him. But his trade value is not really that high up even, which is kind of a surprise considering he's an 80 overall. But when I go to the trade finder, no teams have any interest. So we will check again at the actual trade deadline, which would be in next episode. But for right now, it seems like no teams are interested at this point. And then the final comment, our final two comments are from Hawksfan88. He says Schmaltz is definitely a trade piece considering he is older and he's not performing well at all. And then he also says that we should try and get somebody to build up our defensive prospect pool, but he didn't really see any on the block. So if we take a look at what we could get for Nick Schmaltz, there was only one offer when I was looking last, and it wasn't really a great offer, so we might have to wait as well till the trade deadline to trade him away. But Nick Schmaltz has a little bit more trade value than somebody like Caleb Jones does. Obviously because he's an 84 overall, but he is making kind of a bad contract to an extent. 7.61 for 3 more years. Or well, two more years technically after this season. But if we are to trade him away at the deadline, at least we could call up like somebody like John Farinacci, who's been playing really good in the AHL. But if we go to the trade finder, there is only this one offer for Nick Schmaltz, which is to take on Ryan Murray's contract, which is almost worse than Schmaltz's to an extent because he's making 6.1 for 4 years. But we do get a third and a sixth rounder in that type of trade. But I don't think I would still make that type of deal any day. So yeah, we're probably going to have to wait on Nick Schmaltz till the actual deadline itself just to see if we can make any trades with him. I will probably check the trade finder again, like probably closer to the date, and that way we could figure it out. But so yeah, that's basically that. And what Hawkson was saying with Schmaltz underperforming, our top line has been very terrible, as I was mentioning a little bit earlier. We look at our top line, Nick Schmaltz has only 7 points through 23 games, while our top guns of hate, or not top guns, like second liners and third liners like Heaton and Gaudette have been good. Boyd's even been better than Nick Schmaltz, which is really weird because look at that ice time differential, 9 minutes of different ice times, and one has more points than the other, which makes no sense. So obviously we need that top line to get going. I did make some line changes near the end of last episode, so hopefully those help those guys get going a little bit because their trade values might drop off if they're going to produce like that. And also, as you can see, like our rookie and Agostino's been good, Dal Cole's been good, but Clayton Keller has been also very quiet, 9 points through 23 games. And yeah, he's averaging 10 more minutes of ice time than Michael Dal Cole, but he has less points, which is kind of nuts. Dylan Genther was also on the top line for a bit. He only has 5 points through 23 games. So hopefully he turns it around. We moved him down, I believe, to the second line. I could always try and move him to the third line to play with somebody like Agostino to see if that helps out. But yeah, it seems like our top line has just not been there, and everybody else has been actually not too bad. So we definitely needed to address that. Also, our top pairing in terms of defense has not been good in terms of plus minus, so we might have to address that going forward. Not that it really matters if we're going to be a bad team, though, because we don't want to make the playoffs, but it's kind of weird that we have a 10, 11, and 2 record despite our top line not producing. So I'm going to also go into edit lines and just quickly address our defensive core a little bit. Just split up Chikrin and Soderstrom because it seems like they don't work well together. So we'll put Yoki Haru up and then move Smokrov to play with Soderstrom and Jones and Timmins still. Timmins is almost ready to be in the top 4, but he doesn't really fit our top 4 that well. So hopefully he stays as a top 6 defenseman. And then there's our goaltending and all that stuff. So I think we are ready to go. One last thing before we actually start simulating more is John Farinacci and Calvin Shelley are both tied for the league lead in goals currently in the AHL, so very excited to see how they develop more this year. Shelley is up to a 78 overall, so there is a chance he could get called up after the trade deadline this year, if you guys think we should. And then also John Farinacci could get called up if we're to trade away somebody like Nick Schmaltz, so I'm very excited to see how our prospects play for the rest of this franchise mode. Well, at least this season. Just because I'm curious if Shelley's going to be a good goal scorer once he gets to the NHL and all that stuff as well. Because he's just been really nuts right now. He's only got like 13 goals and 1 assist. So he's just like a pure shooter. But anyways, we're going to just sim up to the deadline in this episode. And yeah, we won't make any trades for now just because I want your guys' feedback on stuff. But we will probably be making a few trades in next episode for sure. So let's just go to January the 1st, but hopefully we do not over-simulate because we do not want to make the playoffs. Okay, so JJ Moser is back from his injury. He was injured like multiple times. We'll take out Holtz and throw him back in. That is good to go. Also, Cameron Karate is almost ready to be an NHL defenseman as well, so we could play him on our top 6 at some point if we're to trade away somebody like Caleb Jones, or we could just continue to play Nicholas Baudin, who is currently a depth forward for us, or depth defenseman for us, as Yannick has also returned from his injury, because our HL team kind of got swamped with injuries in last episodes, so. But yeah, hopefully our top young prospects continue to produce down there in Tucson. And hopefully our NHL team kind of falls off a bit as Travis Boyd has been injured, so we'll just go replace player. And I hate that it shows like the screen where you can't even see how good your team is simulating right now, because I'd like to make sure that we don't make the playoffs. So Travis Boyd is back, throw him back into our 4th line. Has Genther been producing better? A little bit better it seems like, but he is a minus 20 through 35 games. I'm going to move him down to play with Agostino, I think, and then give Fisher more ice time. I just think it makes more sense to kind of wean Genther a little bit into the lineup, even though he's not really a great fit. It seems like on, yeah, he's not really a great fit on most of these lines. His best line is probably the first line, to be honest. But we can't play him on the first line because that first line was not producing well at all. And Samarukov has now been injured. We'll just go replace player. And we are 17-17-2, so we're still kind of over-simulating, which I don't really like. But if we are still like this at the trade deadline, at least we could kind of choose our fate. But I do not want to make the playoffs this year, obviously, because there is some good prospects in this upcoming draft probably. So 30 points through 36 games for Barrett Hayton. That's pretty nice to see. How is our AHL team doing? Our AHL team is 21-12-2. And Farinacci is still point per game. His goal scoring slowed down a lot, though, because he did have 13 goals. So he might be setting up Shelley a little bit more. We'll find out at the end of this episode, though, for sure, how that AHL team is doing. But not too bad. Let me just take a look at the player stats quickly, just to kind of skim through this. Okay, so yeah, we still have a lot of guys that are really bad plus-minus wise, but yeah. Dylan Genther is kind of having a rough year. Top pairing is improving in terms of plus-minus, which is good, but Soderstrom and Chikrin are still really bad defensively. And in that top 6, pairing of Jones and Timmins is doing really well defensively, so that's really interesting. That's good. Always good to see your defensive core producing at some rate. And Montembeault has actually been really good, despite his lack of wins. But Coroner has been terrible when he's played. Yeah, he's 1-5, and he's allowed 20 goals in 8 games. Let me just take a look at the depth. Samarukov's also been actually not that bad, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, we might have to make some changes at the deadline for defensemen. Like, we could always trade away somebody on the defensive core. I would think more like one of the better 2, like Caleb Jones or something like that. Or we could keep Jones and Timmins together throughout the entire year. But somebody maybe on our top 4 could go, like Yoki Haru, because he is on the last year of his contract. So maybe we could look at offers for him as well, and Goddard and all that type of stuff. But let's continue simulating because we got still, I think, like another month and a little bit before we're actually at the trade deadline. But hopefully this team kind of falls off near this deadline because we do not want to have a good record and we want to get a good prospect in for this team, obviously. Because we do have a lot of good prospects at the moment, but I feel like we still need good defensive prospects, like Hawks fan was mentioning, and also we could use some goaltender prospects still, even though we do have now Jesper Wallstedt down there in the minors. So, but yeah, I think our team is still kind of over-simulating at this stage, but at least we're staying like at 500 and we're not like winning too much games. Because like we could be way above 500 if we wanted to, but Detroit has fired their coach. Interesting. We could always find a new coach in the offseason as well if we want to look and see if there's a guy with a better scheme fit, if we want to be a competitive team at some point. Bear Banov's been injured, we'll replace him. So around 22, 24, and 3, and we are like a month away around from the actual trade deadline. And we are still 4th in our division, so our division is actually pretty tight, so we could still fall down easily to last place if we have a really bad second half of the season. Adam Gaudette somehow is almost point per game, so he's definitely going to be trade bait, I think, just because his value should probably be going up, considering I think this is the last year of his contract. So that's good. Yeah, let's just continue to simulate up to the deadline or the day before the deadline so we can see how this team is at that stage. And we'll take a look at like the trading block and all that sort of thing to see what there is available. Hopefully there's some defensive prospects we could bring in for guys like Nick Schmaltz and Gaudette and all that sort of thing. So our main offense has been our second line, I think, this season, which is kind of a surprise. Like I said, I'm kind of surprised that Nick Schmaltz has been so bad, and same with Keller. Keller's only got 27 points through 50 games. Like, he is improving, but still, that's not really that great for somebody like him. And then also, yeah, Nick Schmaltz has been pretty bad, 24 points. Yeah, I don't know what the problem is with those two guys, why they're not producing well. If it's Schmaltz is on the second line power play now, which is kind of interesting. I didn't realize Barrett Hayton was on the first unit. Maybe that's why Nick Schmaltz isn't doing that well. But it doesn't make any sense why Keller's been doing that bad on the first unit. Interesting. And Connor Timmins has fractured his jaw. Let's just go replace player because that will put in Baudin. And of course, this game's going to do this stupid glitch again. Like, I hate this calendar glitch where it just stays on the calendar screen and you do not see any games simulating, but they are simulating in the background. It's kind of dumb. Baudin's actually been pretty solid since he's been in the lineup, 3 points in 12 games. But obviously this pairing of Jones and Timmins has been pretty good. Jones is now only a +2, so he's been kind of dropping off, but Timmins is still a +11, which I think is pretty good. And Tracy's been injured in Tucson. That's not good. We'll just go replace player, though. And now we are 25, 31, and 3, so we are falling off, which is good. Obviously, some guys will get traded away and will fall off even more so because we are only 4 points above the last place team in our division at this stage. And we are one of the worst teams in the entire NHL, so our division is just really weak, I think, by comparison to other divisions. And that's why we've been winning games. Let's just sim to a day before the deadline so get these last two games out of the way. Carolina and the Islanders. We'll sim to right here. And Caleb Jones is back, but was he injured? I don't think so, right? No, he wasn't. That was Timmins that was injured at one point. And we lose both those games. So we're going to be 25, 32, and 4 at the trade deadline, which is good for me. Obviously, because we're falling off. Hopefully that gives us a good chance of getting number 1 in the draft. But let's take a look at how we've been simulating so far, or like our player stats and all that stuff. And then we'll take a look at the trading block. We'll also take a look at our progress reports, our AHL stats, all that type of thing, just to see where we're at this rate. So currently in the entire league, where are we sitting? Out of curiosity, we are bottom 6. But we could easily fall down to worst in the league, but that's pretty good. Because then we might be still getting an elite player if we are to jump up in the draft lottery, which hopefully that happens. Goals for per game. Currently, we are one of the worst offensive teams in the entire league, mainly because of our top line probably kind of underproducing. Goals against per game. We are not one of the worst defensive teams, so we're actually a better defensive team than we look. 3.05, kind of around the mid-table, maybe a little bit below that. Power play percentage has been one of the worst in the entire league at 12.3%, so maybe that's what's kind of dragging down our offense. And our penalty kill has still been actually pretty damn good, 86.4%. And we have 10 shorthanded goals this year, which leads the league. So I guess we're just a good shorthanded team. And we actually have a 15-13-3 record on home ice so far, and 10-19-1 on the road. So we've been a bad road team, but an okay home team, which is good. At least gives our fans something to cheer about. Let's take a look at these player stats so far. So Adam Gaudette so far has 48 points in 61 games. Definitely a career year for somebody like Adam Gaudette. I think he's definitely trade bait at the deadline because, yeah, he's on the last year of his contract. I think it makes sense to move on from him, and his value's probably going up. I think it could be the power play that is giving him the amount of points that he has. Barrett Hayton's got 46 points. That's pretty nice to see considering we just locked him up for a 5-year deal. Nick Schmaltz has still been really underperforming. He's definitely still trade bait, 29 points in 61 games. So he has been improving still, but very slow season from Nick Schmaltz and that top line in general. Travis Boyd, 17 points. So Boyd had like more points when we last looked in Nick Schmaltz, but now he's slowed down a lot, but still not too bad from Travis Boyd, considering he's like a fourth liner. And then Larson, 1 assist in 4 games. Left wing wise, Keller's got 33 points now, so he's picked it up. And Agostino's dropped off in points a little bit, so looks like our top guns are starting to produce, but I still don't really like how they started the season off at all. Agostino, 31 points in 61 games. Last we looked, I believe he had 16 points. So he still could be up there for Rookie of the Year, but I feel like he's probably getting passed by guys like Bedard and whatnot, so still a good year, though, from Agostino so far. Genther's got 24 points, and he's a minus 27, so this team is definitely having trouble keeping the puck out of the net. But still not a bad rookie year as well from Dylan Genther, except for that plus-minus. He doesn't seem to be like a really good fit with our current coach, so we might have to find a new coach at some point. Michael Delcole, 18 points, not too bad. Lawson Krause, 12 points. We go to the right wingers. Kristen Fisher has 13 points in 61 games. That's also pretty solid. And he is signed for 1 year, so he could be potentially trade bait. I don't know, though. Maybe we could fetch something for him, but he is 26. He is a useful player, and his shooting percentage is actually pretty good, too. Bear Banov, 24 points, not too bad. Gauthier. There's too much G's in this team. 14 points, 61 games. So, yeah, there's a lot of guys that could be probably dealt if we want to. And then Chikrin has 28 points, but he's a minus 26 on that top pairing. Soderson's got 20 points, so he's a minus 13. Samarukov's been pretty good. 16 points in 56 games because he missed some due to injury, and he's a plus 1. Connor Timmins has been good defensively, 15 points and a plus 11 on a team that is well below goals for and goals against average. So I think he's just a really good defenseman for our team. And then Caleb Jones, plus 3, 10 points. Aoki Haru is a minus 18 and has got 10 points. So, yeah, maybe somebody on this defensive core is going to be moved out. I just don't know who. And Beaudain's got 3 points in 12 games. Goaltending-wise, Montembeault has still been really good. Save percentage-wise and goals against is not too bad. But, yeah, Josef Coronar is really having a struggling season. So, I think it's good that we didn't really split ice time between the two of these guys, because Coronar would just lose us a ton of games, and then we'd probably wouldn't still get first overall. But that's our NHL team stats. Let's take a quick look at our AHL team, because I'm curious on our top prospects. So, John Farinacci, 58 points. He's up to an 82. Jeez. He's developing really well this year. So, I think we definitely have to trade away Nick Schmaltz, because Farinacci could jump into our lineup easily. Or we could just let Farinacci keep killing it down there in the AHL for now. He is on the last year of his ELCs, so we could lock him up long term this offseason if we want to, if he's going to produce at like that level at the NHL level, which I don't know if he would. Yannick, 33 points is pretty good. He's up to a 74 still. Kirk, okay. Nobody really important except for Farinacci there. In terms of our left wingers, Braden Tracy had 42 points in 60 games before his injury. He is up to a 76, so getting close to being a fourth liner. Emil Schulz has 40 points, 3 goals, 37 assists, still a pure playmaker, it seems like, which is good to have. And he's up to a 72, so he is developing, which is great to see for a former second rounder. Varlamov's got 30 points, it's also pretty good. Nice to see a playmaker actually with 12 goals, so that's not too bad. He is minus 11 now, which is kind of a surprise. But he's up to a 73 overall. I believe he was a 70 to start, so he is getting development. And then Imama has 13 points. McCartney, 10 points. Not that those guys matter. And holy shit, Calvin Shelley is still a pure shooter. My God. 37 goals and 12 assists for 49 points through 62 games. He's up to an 80 overall, so I think him and Fernacci could easily get called up this year, but we could leave them in Tucson for the rest of the season and wait till next year because the rest of our season is probably going to be abysmal. But Shelley is a great goal scorer. His shooting percentage is almost 19%. And he's probably on pace to have like a 50-goal season in his first AHL year, which is absolutely nuts. And if we look at his other stats, because those are also kind of intriguing, his face-off stats are still not that bad. His hits, 45 hits, okay, not too bad. Blocked 33 shots, and he's got more takeaways than giveaways, which is always good to have as well. Not too bad. Let's take a look at those individual attributes. His shooting is literally 99s across the board almost. Like, this guy's going to be absolutely insane. And he's on 5-star defense now, too. So, very good defensive shooter, which is something I've never had in a franchise mode before. So, very excited to see this guy at the NHL level at some point. Nybeck's up to a 74, so we are getting some really good development down there in the minors. Defensively, Moser's got 38 points, Deneen 35. Not that any of these guys really matter, but Braden Schneider is getting closer to being an NHL defenseman. And as we were mentioning, Karate is still a 79. Goaltending wise, Wallstead has been pretty good down there, and Lenefelt has also been pretty good down there. So, seems like down there in Tucson, our scoring is our problem right now, but we do have our top guns and our top prospects producing, which is a good thing to have. Like these 4 guys right here, and then Varlamov as well. Interesting. So that is the AHL stats. Let's take a quick look at the trading block and the progress reports, and I think that'll be pretty much it. We could take a look at the trade finder actually right now just to see what we could get for somebody like Nick Schmaltz and stuff like that again, just to see if it's changed, because it could have. Nick Schmaltz, let's see if there's any new offers for Nick Schmaltz. There is one, which is Ryan Murray again, and a 4th rounder, so there's not really a whole lot of offers for somebody like Nick Schmaltz. But we could still try and find an offer for him at the actual deadline if there's something you guys see at like the trading block and whatnot. So yeah, that's Nick Schmaltz. Adam Gaudette. What could Adam Gaudette fetch us? Nothing apparently. But his value has spiked up a lot, so we should be able to find some trades for him at the deadline. And let's see what else we got here. Left winger wise, for guys on the block. I mean, we can deal pretty much anybody away at this point except for our top prospects, obviously. Christian Fischer's value is also increasing, so that's also good if there's any offers for him. We could get 2 second-rounders from multiple teams if we want to get rid of him. So, Christian Fischer might be trade bait, considering he is on a 1-year deal. And I think that's pretty much that. Barabanov's value is actually not that bad either. And looks like we could get a 2nd and a 4th, so Barabanov might be trade bait for sure. So that's also pretty good. And then on defense, if we wanted to trade away Caleb Jones like it was mentioned to us earlier, there is trade offers now for Caleb Jones. So Caleb Jones really doesn't fetch us a whole lot, but we could trade him to the Blackhawks like mentioned by Senator Sal. But I don't really know if any of these offers really make sense. We could bring in somebody like Sami Niku, but he's a worse version of Caleb Jones probably. Maybe a little bit more offensively minded. But there is offers for Caleb Jones, so that's interesting. And then we could call up like Cameron Crotty easily as like a replacement if we want to. And then goaltending wise, we don't really need to trade anyone in these guys away. Wallstead has like no value, which is kind of weird. But he is a 78 overall now, so he is almost ready to be that NHL goaltender, which is also good. And Lenefeld's a 77, so both these guys might jump to the NHL at some point. And then I guess Coronar and Montebo might walk at some point, Prospitov as well. So that's interesting. So that's that. Let's take a quick look at the trading block and the progress reports, and then that'll be it for this episode, because this episode's already around 20-something minutes. But yeah, there is prospects we could trade for if we are to trade away somebody with some decent value. Like Fabian Lysell is still on the block after multiple seasons, which is interesting. There's all these veterans, but obviously we do not need veterans. Ponomarev is interesting, but he's got probably too much value. There's still like Ryan Suzuki, Seth Jarvis. There is definitely stuff we could trade for. Hopefully there's defensive prospects though, because that's more what we really need, because we did draft a lot of offensive ones. There is this McLeod guy who's a low top 4, but probably nothing important, because usually low top 4s, some of them pan out, but some don't. More veterans. Any other defensive prospects so far? No. Seems like mostly offensive prospects, which is kind of annoying, because we do need more defensive prospects than anything. Probably also some goalie ones in case, even though Wallstedt is probably going to be a really good goalie when he comes to the NHL, if he actually simulates like he should. Othman, Danielson. Yeah, there's like a lack of defensive prospects on the block, which is kind of concerning, but still, if you guys see anything you want me to trade for, let me know. Jack Hughes is on the block. That's actually kind of intriguing. 4 years at $7 million. He's on the block at an 82 high elite. I don't think there's really any deal that it would be able to do that makes sense. Like, we'd have to give up a really good prospect probably in order to get somebody like Jack Hughes. But that's kind of intriguing to see him on the block. But yeah, there is still a very big lack in defensive prospects on the block, which is unfortunate. So hopefully we can find some in the draft. I'll show you guys probably the draft class as well. That way you guys can make judgments of what kind of picks we trade for and all that type of thing. Because maybe there is going to be some good prospects in later rounds. Because we actually haven't taken a look at the draft class, I don't think, at all this season. If I'm not mistaken. I might have taken a look at it last episode, but I can't remember if I did. Daniel Chaka is one of the best prospects for defense out there right now. I don't know if he's going to really become much. Caden Korzak as well. There's also Kaz Hivnikov, but he's a low top 6. More top 6 forward prospects. And that's pretty much what's on the block. So not really a whole lot. Still a lot of good prospects, but I don't know if anything we could trade for. Let's take a quick look at that draft class now. So we still don't really know a whole lot about this draft, which is kind of concerning considering it's March. Do I even have scouts or something doing their job? Like, let me just see. Do I not have a scout in region? I do. That's interesting. Seems like a lot of our scouts aren't doing a good job, though. But there is a sniper supposed to go first overall, a playmaker for second. Some defensive prospects within the top 5, so that's good if we are to get a top 5 pick, because Simon Richard would be a very good defensive prospect to get in. He's a two-way. There's also Jesper Modin, another 17-year-old two-way defenseman. So yeah, there might be actually some good stuff in this draft for us in terms of defensive prospects. Which, yeah, there's a lot of defensemen actually in this draft, it looks like, in the first round at least. So we should be able to get some prospects in for that defensive core for the future. Let's sort this by potential just to see if there's any low leads to pin. These guys are probably not franchises, but still interesting. This guy's supposed to go 40th, and he's listed as a gem. Okay. Travis McGillis. That guy's a second round pick of ours for sure. No questions asked. Because this is fully accurate scouting stuff. So he's definitely 1 year away. He's 17 years old. He's listed as a gem. So he's probably going to be like a top 6 grinder. But he's probably going to have a high overall. And to get a good grinder like that would be a good thing to have for our penalty kill. So I kind of like that. He might also have some X factors, including shrug it off. He does have that. And truculence probably as well, considering he's a grinder. Why not? But yeah, we might get some good prospects in for sure in this year's draft, I think. Goalie-wise, nothing important. Any low leads, though, for like the 7th round. There is potentially this Sergei Koltsov guy. Yeah, that guy looks actually pretty good. We'll pin him. He might be a 3rd round pick of ours. Or maybe even a late 2nd if we have a late 2nd, which I don't think we do. But yeah, this draft might actually be pretty good. Based on what I'm seeing, at least in terms of depth. Let me just take a look at the draft board again quickly to see what picks we have this year. So we do have 3 second-round picks this year. So we will probably be able to get McGillis and that other dude I was mentioning, which is good. We do have 2 third-rounders, 2 fourths, and a 5th. We do not have a 6th or a 7th. So I think we're pretty good in terms of like draft picks early on, but we could actually add more via some trades, which is good. Let's take a quick look at that progress report just to see who's been developing, because maybe some of our unsigned prospects are getting some good development. Looks like, yeah, Agostino's getting some development. He's up to an 81, but not developing super quick yet. He will eventually, though. In the system-wise, yeah, Shelley's been getting a lot. Trafford's been getting a lot. Korpakari. So it looks like some of our unsigned guys are getting good development, but most of the guys getting development are in our AHL team, I think. But everything's looking pretty good in terms of our prospect pool right now. Just good to see. Ortmeyer's up to a 65 at 18. This guy's going to jump probably to the AHL at some point because he's a good offensive defenseman, and he also has an X factor, so we definitely want to give that guy an opportunity. Wallstead has got apparently no development, which is kind of concerning. And I think that's pretty much that. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Arizona Coyotes franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the trade deadline. We'll probably make a few trades, and we'll simulate the rest of the season and see how our AHL team does, and our NHL team, of course. But hopefully we get a good pick in this year's draft. So let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.